Nebraska is going to pose one of the toughest challenges to Penn State this season, but the Nittany Lions should still dominate here.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm your host of the show and joined by the voice of Penn State wrestling, also morning show host over at Fox Sports 98.7 up in State College. That is Jeff Ironhead Byers. And Jeff, thanks so much for the time as we are going to talk about Penn State versus Nebraska. One of the first true tests of the season. I mean, that just comes with the territory of how good Penn State wrestling is. But Nebraska is a top 10 dual meet team. There are plenty of top 10 matchups here to watch for and ones that we're going to particularly highlight. But Jeff, I can't help but mention that just because of how good the Nittany Lions, how great, how elite, that there is shutout potential here. Penn State could very well shut out a fringe top 5 wrestling team.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, Zach, I think anytime Penn State takes the mat, if they have their full lineup in particular, that potential is there. I mean, again, I'm not not predicting that they're going to shut out the likes of Iowa and Ohio State and all of that down the road, but the potential is there because, again, as I've been saying all season, there's just not a bout out there where you would say the Nittany Lions just don't have a realistic shot of pulling out a victory. And obviously, if that's the case, you have a chance of winning every bout that's out there.
So per Intermat, Penn State's number 1, Nebraska is number 6 in the dual meet rankings. In the tournament rankings, Nebraska moves up to number 4. So let's jump right into some of these head-to-head matchups here. And the first one that is most likely going to take place at 125. Luke Lilledahl versus the veteran Caleb Smith. And that's the one that's going to get it started. This is the true test for Luke Lilledahl. And I know that he's faced some tough competition along the way. His opponent from Lehigh certainly, gave him, I don't want to call it a scare, but certainly challenged him. But Caleb Smith is somebody that's going to contend for All-America status. And frankly, that I think somebody that Luke Lilledahl is going to face more than once through the remainder of this season.
Yeah, I think it's just a great opportunity for Luke to, as you said, get up against a more experienced wrestler who's certainly very talented and, ranked higher and all of that. I really think Luke, while he has wrestled very well this season, is about to come into his own. And I think this will be a great opportunity for him to kind of showcase exactly where he's at in his ongoing development here as a collegiate wrestler. But yeah, this is a big test. Smith is very, very good, really solid in all 3 positions, and I think it's the type of opportunity that you want at this time of the season for Luke Lilledahl. Again, win, lose, regardless of the result, I think it's more about getting that feel here for an opponent of this caliber, and then making the adjustments, again, regardless of the outcome, making the adjustments you need to your game to try to get to where you want to be, which is on top of the podium in Philadelphia at the end of the year.
Absolutely. I think Luke Lilledahl, despite what the rankings say, is one of the top 4 wrestlers, so that puts him in that semifinal category right now. Caleb Smith is around there. Don't get me wrong. He could certainly find his way into a semifinal, so will be a match for the ages and a preview of potentially a Big Ten title and maybe a semifinal or a quarterfinal in the NCAA postseason. Moving to 133. You're getting another setup of not necessarily a top 10 matchup here, and Luke Lilledahl ranked outside of the top 10, but I consider that one a top 10 personally. But Braden Davis is going up against somebody that is from the state of Pennsylvania himself in Jacob Van D, and I've seen Jacob Van D wrestle in the high school ranks. He was one of the more talented wrestlers to come out of the state. It's still respectable. I don't want to try to criticize Jacob Van D for being a top 20 wrestler, but certainly just from what I've seen in person of Van Vandy, I thought that he would be solidly inside of the top 10. So this is a matchup that Braden Davis, there is still a substantial gap to where Braden Davis is progressing very well, and somebody that I think certainly has a chance to find his way into an NCAA semifinal, and Jacob Van D isn't there just yet.
Yeah, I think Van D is capable, though, of wrestling. His problem has been, I think, just the consistency element, but he is certainly capable of wrestling an outstanding bout.
The talent's there, yeah.
Again, this is a good test at this stage of the season for Braden Davis, and I think it's one that he'll be up to the task for. But Van D is a dangerous enough guy that he's going to have Penn State's full attention, and again, Braden Davis has got to be dialed in. I do think this is a match of, if Braden Davis is to get where he wants to get to at the end of the year, this is a match where he does need to go out and take care of business, and I think he will.
Where have you seen Braden Davis get better? I mean, he is winning these close victories against a Nasir Bailey. I like the aggression that I saw against the likes of Ryan Crookham, because I think that's the biggest difference from the outside view, is that Braden Davis is showing more confidence, and that's expected, but it's also the coordinated aggression. I felt like at times he was a little bit passive, but going up against wrestlers that, some people might consider better than him, he doesn't see it that way.
No, and I think there's, the confidence piece is always critical in a sport like wrestling. And I think he's wrestling just more confidently, kind of knowing exactly where he's at now in terms of his game and his development. I think he's gotten a little better in all three phases, and I think he's added to his game in all three phases. And I think that's something that is obviously going to help him down the stretch. I think the versatility in his offense continues to increase, and he's always been very tough to score on, and I think that remains the case. But yeah, I think if he can continue to create those scoring opportunities himself, where he's not relying on an opponent's mistake, that he's right there. I mean, he's going to be in the mix for a national title here in 2025.
3 consecutive top 10 bouts follow after that. 141, 149, 157. This is where the fireworks are truly going to happen, and we'll talk about Beau Bartlett and Brock Hardy at 141. Two wrestlers that are very familiar with one another, and those matches always go down to the wire. We'll talk about it more on the other side of this break. And today's episode is brought to you by WayFair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC, and you can find that decluttering and refreshing your space will help you get back into that routine. So whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or you just want to give your space a new look to start the new year, WayFair has everything you need and all within your budget. You can look at furniture and see their huge selection that makes it easy to find pieces that will fit your style and your budget. And the best part, the free and hassle-free delivery, even for larger items. WayFair's site is very easy to navigate, and you will find everything you need in no time. There's truly something for every style and every home, no matter the type of space or your budget. WayFair makes it easy to tackle your New Year's home goals with endless inspiration for every kind of space and decor style. Give your home a refresh it needs at WayFair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That is WayFair.com. Wayfair.com. WayFair. Every style, every home. Beau Bartlett, Brock Hardy, familiarity. It doesn't even begin to speak into existence just how close these matchups are going to be. And Brock Hardy, I think, certainly gave Beau Bartlett a scare the last time around. But Beau, why he's at the top of his game is because he's able to win those kinds of victories. It isn't always the dominant ones. It's the ones where you have to find a way to win at all costs. But Brock Hardy is certainly going to give him a challenge once again. Beau Bartlett ranked 3rd, Brock Hardy ranked 6th. I imagine that Beau Bartlett is still going to have the advantage here, but Jeff, from what you remember about the last matchup, Why did Hardy give Bartlett a scare that last time around?
Yeah, well, I mean, start with he's just a really good wrestler,
That
very
helps.
tough to score on, and he has a very versatile game to his offense. He's really good in all three phases, and I think, to Beau Bartlett's credit, and I think sometimes fans just expect that everybody should be going out and picking up bonus points in every single match, and Bartlett wins some closer matches, but he wins them. He just is a guy that finds a way very consistently to win these matches. I would not be surprised if this one goes to sudden victory or even beyond. But there is a difference between being close with a guy and actually beating him. And Hardy just has not been able to get over the hump here against Beau Bartlett. And, I think Beau just has a tremendous confidence in his ability to win the close matches. And it's confidence born from preparation and now a, career's worth of results that back that up. So I do think this will be a very competitive match. I think Bartlett goes in with the idea, he wants to create a little separation here, try to get a couple of takedowns if he can in regulation and not allow this thing to get to sudden victory. But again, Hardy is he's just a really good, tough all-around wrestler.
And I don't want to criticize Beau Bartlett because he is the third-ranked wrestler, and the only thing that separates him from being at the top is, I know Andrew Ramirez is there, but the head-to-head one with Jesse Mendez, and it is so close. The difference is just one simple takedown or one simple move that ultimately leads to that takedown. So, but Bartlett has started off slow in some of these matches, and I saw particularly against Wyoming is that he came out with that aggression, didn't want to waste time, and mess around with the opponent and just kind of handle business. So that's certainly going to be key for him against a wrestler like Brock Hardy, but easier said than done, of course, because Hardy's not going to make it that simple. Let's move to 149 because this one is probably the one that I have circled the most, Jeff, and certainly maybe you do as well, is Shayne Van Ness against Ridge Lovett. Now, Ridge Lovett did not finish as strong as I thought he would in the last postseason. Of course, Tyler Kasak was coming on strong. He caught lightning in a bottle and absolutely annihilated somebody that, certainly controlled him in those previous matchups. Kasak moves up to 157 and Ridge Lovett stays at 149 because Shayne Van Ness returns here. And I think even though these two wrestlers are ranked second and fourth respectively per Intermat, I feel like that's a large gap between the second and fourth ranking. I see Shayne Van Ness as a true title contender and Ridge Lovett as somebody that, yes, can contend for the title, but maybe not as securely as a Van Ness.
Yeah, Lovett. I mean, both these guys are very offensive-oriented wrestlers, and this could be just a wildly entertaining bout for the fans. I mean, these guys both can put up points in a hurry, and they're both really well conditioned. I mean, they go hard for 7 minutes, and it's hard to bet against Shayne Van Ness right now. The way he's wrestling and the level of his game, I know he's ranked second. In my mind, he is the guy to beat here at 149 this season. That being said, again, Lovett is certainly capable of catching you and putting up, again, big points in a hurry. I think this is a dangerous matchup. Van Ness, again, to me, is wrestling as well as anybody in the country, not just at 149. I would put Shayne Van Ness up there pound for pound with whatever wrestler you want to put out there. I think he is or should be a legit Hodge Trophy candidate here this season. But again, this is no question a dangerous matchup, and I think it's one that probably fans of both teams are looking forward to seeing because they haven't met each other previously, which is kind of hard to believe. Obviously, Van Ness's injuries and they just haven't met to this point in their collegiate careers, even though they're both more veteran wrestlers. But I think this this bout has the chance to just be, again, from a fan's perspective, wildly entertaining. I would not be surprised if both wrestlers are able to get into double digits on the scoreboard.
Especially, yes, with all of that offense, and that's kind of these closer ones that go to sudden victory. It's 1-1 the whole match, and then ultimately it ends up 4-1. Though that doesn't have the same kind of flair that this. I mean, this could be 12-10. We're talking maybe a Dean Hamity, Mitchell Messenbrink type of match here between Ridge Lovett and Shayne Van Ness. Moving to 157. Tyler Casack is ranked 3rd, and Antrell Taylor is ranked 5. Now, kind of a similar theme where they are just unfamiliar with one another, mainly because Casack is still fairly, new to the collegiate wrestling scene, but started at 141, wrestled at 149, and now he's up to 57. But he meets no slouch in Antrell Taylor, who is also, not exactly a veteran in his own right. So this is, I feel like, I'm going to side with Tyler Casack, but probably one of the closest ones we might see all night.
Yeah, I think on paper, this one's truly a toss-up. Now, I also think Tyler Casack at the end of the year here is going to win a title for Penn State at 157. So I'll favor Casack, but Taylor is again another just really dangerous opponent. His length, I think, is will be probably the biggest part of the challenge for Casack. But Zach, I tell you, Casack is another one of these guys that has just elevated his game and added so much to his arsenal. And he's a guy that just has a way of figuring things out as a match goes along. He is really good at kind of feeling what his opponent is giving him, what his opponent is trying to get, and then adjusting accordingly in match. I just and Tyler is so doggone powerful. I think this will be a very, very close match. This one, to me, kind of goes in the toss-up category. But it's hard, I think, to bet against any of these Penn State wrestlers. But Casack just has a little different competitive edge than a lot of guys. And I just think at the end of the day, he's going to kind of will himself to a takedown when he needs it.
The margin of error is so thin between these two. So this one, I'm very eager to see, just because of the chess match that it will be between Casack and a difference in style too. Like you said, Tyler Casack is just so powerful and just so strong, and Antrell Taylor, you're going to get quickness, you're going to get speed. So kind of the two, and it's not that Tyler Casack is slow, but I think there is, there's an edge in both of their strengths here that could be the difference en route to one of the victories here. So truly a coin flip, and that's what makes this one so exciting. Well, there's 165, 174, 184, 197 in heavyweight to chat about here. Picking back up with Mitchell Messenbrink on the other side of this break. Christopher Minto, don't just look at him as a fringe competitor here. He's certainly going to give Messenbrink everything he can handle, and we'll tell you why on the other side of this break. And today's episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money can help you find any subscriptions that you might have forgotten about or that you were paying for twice. Now, that has definitely happened to me. I've had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money can make it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant, but for your finances. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps you lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. Brings everything together all in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. One of the best features is the subscription tracker. You can use it to cancel services that you don't use anymore, and you will save a ton. Plus, there's the goals feature where you can automatically set aside money for your future, and then no more stressing about budgeting every single month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Again, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Yes, Mitchell Messenbrink is the number one overall wrestler at 165, and I am very confident. I'm not trying to imply that he doesn't pick up a victory here, but don't just look past his opponent in Christopher Minto. Again, these are projected lineups, of course, but we anticipate that Minto is going to wrestle Mitchell Messenbrink here, and it's because he picked up a top 15 victory of his own against Tyler Lillard of Indiana, and dominated. It was a major decision. So I'm just saying, for the sake of it, don't look past or don't be ultimately surprised if Messenbrink, doesn't win by pin or by tech fall, and this is major decision. Well, that's not routine of Mitchell Messenbrink here. It is because I think Christopher Minto is underrated to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, I think Minto is a terrific wrestler. That being said, Mitchell Messenbrink is
just on another level.
Yeah, he's just that weight class with the way it cleared out this year. It is going to take something truly spectacular and special from somebody if Mitchell Messenbrink is to go down this year. He has just been the picture of consistency and domination. I mean, he's won by tech fall in every contested bout. I think he has was it 8 or 9 tech falls and then the 2 forfeits under his belt. So yeah, I mean, I would say Minto has a shot at keeping it to a major decision.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to see with the way Messenbrink is wrestling right now. I'm not sure that this won't be another tech fall for Mitchell when it's said and done.
174. In terms of pedigree, overall talent, I still look at Lenny Pinto as a top 10 wrestler, even though Intermat has him at 15th. But Levi Haines and Lenny Pinto should be one that is still going to be entertaining. Nevertheless, I feel like Levi Haines is going to be on a mission to respond after that Keegan O'Toole bout, and it's not because he's far behind. That simply came down to a 10-second scramble that ultimately didn't end up in his favor. It's not because Keegan O'Toole convincingly defeated him. That's how close those two are, and it was great to see a potential finals preview there. But I feel bad for the next wrestler that has to face Levi Haines after the first loss that he's had since Austin O'Connor of North Carolina in that 2023 NCAA final itself. So as good as Lenny Pinto is, I hopefully Levi Haines has a little bit of mercy in this bout.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good bout. Pinto is a dangerous wrestler, and Levi, I think technically has to be sound in this match. Pinto is a guy that if you do make a mistake, he can capitalize quickly. But Levi's just, again, been very, very consistent. And again, I just, the way he's wrestling right now should give Penn State fans a ton of confidence. But it's another matchup where, again, a lot of points could be scored. I think Nebraska has a legitimate All-American contender here in Lenny Pinto, but Levi, again, is just a guy that finds a way to get points on the board and can do so in a hurry. And again, he's going to keep that pressure on for 7 minutes. You can wrestle well and close for 4 or 5 minutes, but it's hard to go at Levi's pace for 7 minutes.
And Lenny Pinto, also from the state of Pennsylvania, was one of the top recruits overall, not just out of the state of Pennsylvania, and was at 184 for some time and cut down to 174. So I think that's interesting that Levi Haines moved up a couple of weight classes and Pinto actually cut weight to move down to 174. So we'll see how that ultimately plays out. If there's a little bit of extra strength from his time wrestling up that Levi Haines has to adjust to. This is another one where Carter Starachi is just that much better. It's a top 10 matchup, but Silas Allred is number 7 per Intermat. It's just that Carter Starachi is elite. There's very few that are going to challenge him outside of a Parker Kakaisen if and when they wrestle for another time in the NCAA postseason here. But, I mean, Silas Allred is going to at least give Carter a challenge that, frankly, he hasn't seen for some time since that All-Star Classic.
Yeah, I think this is another one where you want to see a test like this for Carter at this stage of the season. And Allred he is a really solid wrestler. I think Carter's going to have to work to get his points in this one. Allred is just really, really solid defensively, really good on the mat. And I think, again, just a good test for Storace at this stage of the season. Maybe Allred will show him what it is that he'll need to work on to just kind of polish things up in pursuit of his 5th title. But I mean, Storace should win it. I think Allred is going to use this as a good measuring stick too, for kind of where he really is in the national picture. And I think, Nebraska believes, and maybe rightfully so, that he's kind of right there on that next tier, looking to break through here against Storace and Kakaisen.
197, Josh Barr is going to wrestle a fellow newcomer to the starting lineup for Nebraska, and that is Camden McDaniel of Nebraska here. Somebody that just has all the potential in the world, but so does Josh Barr. And McDaniel, who eventually could turn himself into an All-America type of wrestler. I mean, Josh Barr is going after a national title here, so I expect Josh Barr to win convincingly. And same thing at heavyweight with Greg Kirkfleet and Harley Andrews. It's no disrespect to Andrews. There's just such a big gap between the 4 competitors here. The head-to-head matchups at 197 and heavyweight.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think Penn State certainly is looking for bonus points in these 2 bouts, and not that you ever feel assured of bonus points, but I just think the way Josh Barr is wrestling, and certainly Greg Kirkfleet, it's hard to imagine that they won't be able to go out and get at least majors here with the matchups. And as you said, it's these are good wrestlers. Again, I think Nebraska has a really solid dual meet team and an outstanding tournament team. I mean, I think Nebraska can make a real run here at a top 3
to be in the top
finish.
3.
Yeah, in March. But again, I think we're just looking at an historically great Penn State team, and it's not often that you can look down a lineup like Nebraska's with as many highly ranked guys and ranked guys as they have, and not have a bout where you're like, well, okay, we're pretty definitively the favorite here. I mean, there's a few bouts where they have the higher ranked wrestler, but I don't think anybody that follows wrestling is saying Caleb Smith is any kind of a prohibitive favorite over Luke Lilledahl. I think at best that's a toss-up bout. 157 is probably a toss-up bout. And I think 141 and 149 are both, edge Penn State, but I don't think on paper you're looking at that and saying it's inconceivable that Nebraska could win both of those matches. So, I think Penn State's in very good shape for the dual meet. I do think it's possible Penn State could get a shutout, but again, I think that's possible against Iowa, Ohio State, any team you want to throw out there. I just think with this Penn State lineup, it is possible because, again, it's all 10 of those guys are good enough to win any match that you put in front of them over the course of the season.
And I think that's a great way to sum it up here, is that the best case scenario for Penn State is that 10-0 domination with some bonus points in between, where they end up winning the dual meet. I mean, they've shut out I've lost count of how many opponents they've shut out in these dual meets, but these other opponents can't really even hold a candle to a Nebraska with this Nebraska lineup. It's not to be overly critical or just arrogant or anything like that. You said it best. Historic. Penn State is chasing after history once again. And that was all the discussions we had all offseason, Jeff, about how, yes, this team is this one from 24 going 23-24 could set records, but now 24-25 could reset those records. Oddly enough, I think the best case scenario for Nebraska is that, because they gave Penn State a challenge last season. That was the closest dual meet of all the ones that Penn State had a season ago. So Nebraska's no slouch. This is a road environment too. Jeff, where would you put Nebraska in terms of the hostility of the road environments compared to an Iowa, Michigan, and everybody else? I gotta imagine it's right up there with Iowa.
Well, and this one's going to be at the Bob Devaney Center, and they're really pushing to sell this thing out. So it's going to be a crowd the likes of which I don't think we've seen at Nebraska, and I do think that's another element to this that I just think at this stage of the season is going to be a real benefit for the in particular the younger Penn State kids, but the team as a whole is to get into a hostile environment like that, where maybe you get a call or two against you and the fans are all kinds of fired up. I think most good competitors, you embrace that type of a challenge and you want to quiet those fans on the road. But if we do start at 125 and Nebraska's been kind of starting at different weights, and Penn State obviously started at heavyweight there against Michigan State, so that's not a given. But if we do start at 125, it will be interesting if Caleb Smith gets a lead and that crowd gets into it. Again, I think Luke Lilledahl's been around enough and has enough composure and will keep his wits, but you want to see it. And I think, again, regardless of what happens here on Friday night, individually or team-wise, this experience, both against the caliber of competition, along with the environment and everything else that goes with it, is just going to pay dividends when March rolls around here.
Penn State at Nebraska, 9 p.m. Eastern time when this one begins. Jeff Byers, of course, will have the call, and you can listen to it. You can stream it on gopsusports.com no matter where you are in the world. Jeff, thanks so much for the time. Safe travels to Nebraska, of course, and looking forward to the next time we get to chat about Penn State wrestling. Thanks for the insight as always.
Sounds good. Thanks, Zach.
And again, thank you so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. And thank you for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. For your second listen and watch, check out Locked On Big Ten with host Craig Sheeman. Craig puts the Big Ten first when everybody else overlooks it. And with all of this college football playoff discourse, that seems to be the case. You can find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.